Compression test results: 144, 137, 114, and 139. Steam was coming out of this, oil was coming out of that. This plug was super oily. The electrode had oil on it. And pulling the valve cover off to do the temperature sensor, we discovered.
So oil was coming out of 3 and water out of 2.
Choco milk.
Would that be a head gasket? Water would be.
The head's pulled off. Let's see what happened in there. Oh boy. I started cleaning up the top using a wire wheel to get some carbon. It's looking okay. I'm not crazy about what we see in here. It's got too much carbon buildup for the clean. For as clean as it's running, there's actually a little too much carbon buildup, but if it's that bad here, I can only imagine Ivy is probably just completely gummed up in there because, oh boy, do I get pinging. Okay. Engine side, I haven't done any cleaning yet. It looks like we were getting oil through a leak in the head gasket as well as the coolant, because some of the closer distances, like between here and here, you can see that that's one of the thinner spots of the gasket. It's still much more robust than a modern car's gasket in terms of how much gap you get, but it is just not that happy with the amount of heat that we put through it. Also, speaking of not that happy, something's going on at the bottom of this cylinder here, and it looks really rough. Plus I can feel that with my finger. It's like a nice dip. So something happened here. I suspect those rings inside are not so happy, not so good. It's been rebuilt. You see the 040 right there on the left? That means that this is a 40 thousandths over piston and over bore, but it's just yucky. So this one here, similar thing. And why don't we move it all? Nice and smooth all the way up and down. There's no ridge on these, and you can still see the honing marks on the cylinder walls. There's a little bit of a scrape up and down here, but it's not enough that I feel it. So I'm not concerned about that. Moving on to number 1, much of the same. Some water droplets, a little bit of carbon, a little bit of sticking here. And the piston's all the way up. It'll be up against the line of the ridge, so all of this stuff here could be like oil rings getting pretty dirty. And if you've got oil rings that are gummed up with carbon from blow-by past the compression rings, then it's possible that you'll get extra oil consumption. The thing that is useful to clean that would be a little bit of seafoam. When I say a little bit of seafoam, I mean a lot of bit of seafoam. And you just keep running it through. I'm gonna probably do a can every oil change on Ivy. I started with my last oil change and I should keep that going. I was reviewing the footage of my 164 engine teardown where it had really bad compression numbers. Now the gauge might be faulty, but it was like 86, 90, 80 something, and then it went down. The ring that had really bad broken compression rings, the piston, that one was down to like 23 PSI. It was really low. So it was like a fourth of the rest of the values. Because I think the second test even was like 19. So our compression test numbers were pretty good. 130 to 140, but then this one was down to like 113 with the broken ring. So it's not so bad that it's a fourth of the compression numbers. And that's all to say, we just need to get this car back on the road. It's gonna limp around for a while, but there's all these jobs I've been doing are costing a lot of money. And we've gone through different head gasket orientations to try to find the right part number. Turns out B18 and B20 gaskets, the biggest risk is the bore for the pistons. I happen to have gaskets only labeled B18, like this one's a B18 decarbonizing gasket. Running the part numbers online, you find some cross-reference, and then, of course, there's nothing quite like measuring just to see if it'll fit. Thankfully, she do fit. This is a thick gasket. This is 1.8 millimeter. Ooh, you can't really see there. Let's try this. Underneath it is a thin gasket. The thin gasket is for the B20E, the thicker gasket, the B20F. The gasket thickness changes your compression ratio. So we're going to be putting on a thicker gasket, which will help reduce the stress inside the cylinder walls as a Band-Aid, sort of. And another important note as you're doing that is your water pump O-rings. These fellers here, because the thicker gasket brings the head up, we need to have a thicker O-ring for it. When you're buying water pumps, they make it easier and they just supply 2 thicknesses of the rings. I'll do this. In the front is our B20E. The difference between the B20E and the B20F is the head gasket. And those are the smaller rings, and then the larger rings in the back for the thicker head gasketed cars. The water pumps are the same between B18 and B20, so each one of those kits should have both of those in there. So you can see slightly larger in the rear, so that gives us the added space to take up all of the slop and have no leaks from our head to our toes. 7 hours later. Took a little bit of a break, but you know, we'll fire it up tomorrow, do an oil change, see what happens. And a new home for this fella. .75 liters.
Is that a 5 liter one?
1 gallon of oil in.
Oh, it wasn't 5 liters.
No, 3.75.
What was it? Some of them are 5 quarts. And I always try and get the 4 quarts because it's a fucking...
Yeah, I know what you mean. We let it run for 10 minutes. We turn it off, retorque the head bolts. It's that simple. Build up pressure. Sounds pretty good. Hey Lex, what's going on? There's that seafoam, baby. Check this out. She's starting to, yeah, I put some seafoam in the cylinders. It's funny how it only comes out of one pipe, though. TBD. Hopefully that clears up. That means it's not actively sucking and cooling. Alright, we should give this some breathing room. It's not pressurizing the chamber anymore, that's good. There we go. It's clearing up now. Yeah. Oh man.